Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 260, a heavyweight title fight between defending champion Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. We're going to talk two free plays on this card. Actually, the main event play I have and I will be giving out as a free play right now, but I'm actually probably going to be upgrading this to a client play, so I will be talking a client play here also on the show and another one as well. So looking forward to talking about those. But before we do, definitely get involved in the giveaway that I have on Twitter. Check it out. I'm giving away a John Jones signed autographed glove after the event, which will be on Sunday. I will be announcing the winner. Basically, all you have to do, go onto my Twitter, check it out. You have to follow me, like the post, retweet it, and also tell me who will win the main event and what round. And whoever does guess right, or if there's a couple of you that guess right, will be put into a hat. One will be a winner, and that's all you have to do to get involved and be a part of this free giveaway. So definitely check that out. Link in the description to my Twitter account as well. But also more importantly, we are off a nice, solid performance last week. We went 3-0, including our free play, which was Derek Brunson plus 150. So it was a nice weekend last weekend, but we got to keep it going. Nice way to get on the client plays. We were 2-0. We had some cancellations. We had Gregor Gillespie, and we had some other plays going on that were canceled. So a lot of that does happen, but I will, on this card, I'll have about 4 or 5 plays that I'm looking at for this event, and like I said, one of them will be, more than likely, will be what I'll be talking about in the main event play. So let's get into that right now. We're going to talk the main event of the evening between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. So this is one here where it's part 2, and like we always do here, we always like to go down 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to wager. Here, we're actually going to go one more back. And the reason being is because that was the first time that Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic fought. Now, this one is definitely a different type of situation here, where you've got a guy, Ngannou was kind of blazing through the trail there, and then got to step into the cage against a champion, and a different showing than maybe a lot of people thought. But let's break that one down for you. So really that first fight that they had, actually before we do, we should give the lines here. The line right now, you got Francis Ngannou is roughly around a -128. And then you've got Stipe Miocic is the underdog, slight underdog at around plus 105, somewhere around there. So again, now let's talk about that first time that they fought. Now this was a situation where you've got, Ngannou, who was 20, 30 pounds bigger than Stipe Miocic, and this was one where it was going to be a one and done, a big shot landed for, drop Stipe, or was Stipe going to, find that opportunity to kind of get it all together and drag it out deeper and put the big guy away. But this was a fight I thought that, I went back and I rewatched it. Now this was not a very sexy fight to really go back and really rewatch, but I thought there was some takeaways out of this that I think maybe I didn't really pull from the first time really watching it, or really just some highlights that you remember, or a while ago, or all that kind of thing. And again, I've seen all these fights multiple times, but it was good to go back with a different sense, a different mind frame. And in this fight in the first round, obviously the big part was Ngannou's looking for the bomb. I mean, he kind of pushing forward, he's looking for the big shot. Stipe kind of staying on the outside, kind of, playing good defense. And really kind of just looking for the big shot. And the big part here, and I think a lot of people kind of, are pounding this home, is, the takedowns. Is that going to be Stipe's path to victory on Saturday night, defending his title? And is he going to kind of have the same situation? Well, here, early on, I believe it was about 3 takedown attempts early in the fight, where Ngannou was able to defend. Now, I know later on in that fight that did not happen, but it was a different situation where it almost looked like an adrenaline dump, really, for Ngannou, where he was looking for the big shot. He had kind of walked through everybody, and, Stipe definitely took some big shots in that round. I mean, that first round, he was hammered with a couple big hooks, some big uppercuts, and ate them and kept going forward, and that alone is impressive. I mean, that alone shows you the capability of what he's able to take, his chin, and the fact that he was never really even rocked. I mean, he was, I'm sure hurt, but he was never really just like out of sorts or kind of discombobulated of any sorts. He kind of got hit, got his composure, and kept firing forward, which really says a lot about who he is. But But really at the end of that round, that's where really when Stipe started to, get the takedowns and started to, start to implement a little bit more of a game plan. And he was working off of the, a check hook, a check jab, where really you had, Ngannou throw a shot, he threw a quick straight. He was countering nice against the big guys. So there was definitely some positives in that first round, although the first round was kind of a crazy situation because Ngannou was just walking Stipe down. But going into that, the second round and the rest of the fight, was really, you saw Ngannou going into that second round and had nothing. I mean, he really looked like he was very slow. He didn't have much really going on. Almost at the point where he looked off balance. I mean, looked like he almost looked confused that, wow, I'm in the second round now. Like, I was not expecting this. And obviously throughout that fight, you see the multiple takedowns, you see what he did, you see how he got him down, controlled the action, peppered him with some shots. Ngannou really had nothing. I mean, there was even a point where it almost looked like he didn't want to be in there because he just knew he had nothing left. Stipe had the gas tank and kept working through that. Now, again, this is a fight where you can't really dive too much into, but I also believe that there are takeaways. I'm going to talk more about that at the end of my breakdown of this fight, when I tell you who I like as the play. But overall, I just really thought that, if he had landed that big shot, we'd all be talking about how great Ngannou is, although he still is, consistently getting out there, getting victories, quick knockouts. But Stipe is able to take those shots, and that's going to be a question. Can he still do that going into Saturday night? So he goes out there, he does beat Francis Ngannou by decision, and there you have it there. Then the next three fights are all Daniel Cormier. So it's one that I don't want to dive too much into. I mean, the first one I'm kind of going to skip over. Reason being, it was, good fight, but again, there's some eye pokes or whatever it may be. Daniel Cormier lands a big shot, knocks him out in the first round. That was it. But I really kind of want to dive into that second fight because there's a lot more going on, obviously. It got later into the rounds of the fourth round. And stylistically, is this something that maybe Ngannou can do in the cage, or is this something that Stipe can do in Ngannou? And in the situation here, you really had in that first round, I thought that after, they had the first fight where obviously the big shots were landed, DC kind of came forward, he threw that big hook, dropped them, finished them. This was a spot where DC definitely changed his attitude. His game plan. He really went in there and mixed it up right away. And some of the things he did right away was he threw about 4 leg kicks early. I mean, he didn't really throw too many early in that first fight. Goes out there, throws leg kicks, threw out a jab, was giving different looks to Stipe, and you could tell that kind of threw Stipe off a little bit. He definitely wasn't prepared for it. There was even spots where, DC faked the takedowns, and that's something that DC didn't do too much overall. I mean, he definitely, you saw in the second fight, and we'll talk a little about in the third fight, where, he went for early takedowns and kind of got away from that game plan completely. That was definitely his downfall, I think, in both fights. But nevertheless, he goes out there, he got a big takedown late in the fight, late in the first round, got the takedown. It was almost like a body slam takedown, big high level takedown. Ended up looking really good there in that first round. Even into that second round, DC still showed the hand speed, better boxing. Even with this, with Stipe having the longer range, this really was saying a lot about the way that DC actually has good hand speed, good boxing, good technique, and landed some nice shots overall. After the first 2 rounds, DC on significant strikes was at 80%. 80% landing. Now that is very impressive. Now if you're going to utilize those kind of statistics against someone like Ngannou, that's not going to last very long if those are the kind of landing ability. Now I'm not even comparing the two, but again, 80% significant strikes landed for Daniel Cormier in the first 2 rounds is, I think, something to take away from in this fight. But going into it, when you go into the third round, it started to slow down a little bit. DC kind of started to slow down a little bit. And Cormier's even had said, too, in past interviews that he is known or is fine with taking off the third round. If he feels the fight's kind of going his way, he's okay kind of taking off that third round, allowing himself to kind of, I guess kind of build up that gas tank again, not have to exert as much energy, and then from there he's able to kind of, work into that 4th and that 5th round. So it kind of looked, did he do that there? I'm not sure, but again, as he's going through this fight, Cormier stopped kind of looking for those takedowns. Stipe kind of just, okay, you want to stand? That's going to be a wheelhouse for him. They both kind of exchanged some good exchanges. That's where the momentum really started shifting to Stipe. But the big change and the massive adjustment was what Stipe did on the fly in the 4th round, I guess in the 3rd into the 4th round, was really landing the body shots. And that was just a massive change for him. He's able to go out there, land the big shots. I mean, there was a point in that fourth round where I think he landed about 10 body shots in like a minute and a half. And it was nothing that, Cormier looked completely baffled. And the weird part is, even when Cormier was kind of hurt, he never looked for the takedown, never looked for the level change. Even when he did, it was kind of sloppy. He never really pushed for those doubles. Again, I keep kind of going into that conversation because, again, it's very confusing when I was watching it. Like, where is this guy's wrestling? But he goes out there, lands a big body shot. That just crippled and melted DC. He goes out there, puts a stamp on it, and ends the fight. Stipe wins via TKO. And then in the third fight here, this was another spot here where, early on, Stipe looked great. DC looked great. And Stipe kind of, stayed on the outside. They talked about Stipe wanting to pick it up earlier, wanting to get that volume out earlier, and he kind of stayed where he was. A great jab, great setting up leg kicks. Again, the takedowns, you didn't really see them, again, as much. And throughout this fight, again, you don't see the takedowns really in the wheelhouse for Stipe. But going later into the fight, later into the rounds, you definitely saw Cormier. I thought Cormier won the first two rounds. I thought he won the first two rounds. Going into the third is where it started to be where, kind of the momentum again was going that way. And when DC started slowing down, that's when the output started coming out for Stipe. The sloppiness again started happening with DC, but then the eye poke, which is definitely a massive change. Everybody had seen the videos and the pictures of Cormier after the fight, how he looked, how his eye was kind of almost looked like it was not even placed right in his face. It was kind of a weird situation. But Stipe goes out there, gets Cormier to just kind of, batters him later into the fight. Cormier even fought pretty well, I gotta say. Even for a guy with one eye at that point, for about a round and a half, actually fought pretty well. Was landing some shots. Having one eye at that point, I think is pretty impressive for him to keep going, keep looking okay. But Stipe gets the job done. So enough about that. I'm kind of sick of talking about Stipe and DC. But there you have it there. Stipe wins again and defends his title. Now on the other side, you've got Francis Ngannou. Now this is a situation where you're going to have very quick fights overall here. So, 3 fights ago it was against Cain Velasquez. That was a 1 round, 26-second or 20-second knockout. This was one where, I did actually play Ngannou here. I think he was like a plus 150 going into this fight here. He goes out there, he gets the big knockout. Had good space. Even Cain tried to cut distance, get in close, landed a short shot underneath. Cain kind of talked about it was his leg. That's kind of bullshit. I think we all know that. But then that was the end of Cain. Ends that fight, wins in the first round. Same thing, he goes up against Junior Dos Santos. Same kind of situation. Dos Santos trying to keep on the outside. But again, that awkwardness that Junior Dos Santos has. We talk about that, I think, every single time we talk about Dos Santos on this show. He absolutely, has his back to the cage and kind of does this weird run or kind of weird movement. Same thing with Overeem. He's kind of known for that same thing where he's almost, terrified to have his back against the cage and is willing to run away. And that's kind of even here, Dos Santos got hit with a big shot, turned his back completely, which I don't know what the hell you're doing there. Ngannou just keeps throwing bombs, drops him, finishes the fight, wins in the first round and basically in the first minute of the first round. And then most recently he fought Rosenstruck, and this was another quick one. Rosenstruck called him out, which is kind of crazy, but called out Ngannou. Ngannou, I think, took that to heart a little bit, went out there, guns blazing like he does, knocks him out in the first, I think, again, 20 seconds, finishes the fight, wins, and there you have it there. So I kind of wanted to get through that real quickly because I kind of talked a little bit too much about DC and Stipe. When you're breaking this fight down here, I think that the big part of this is obviously, you got to talk about that first fight. You got to talk about that first fight. Now, I think they're both different fighters. I think obviously they're both different fighters. But I think Ngannou, definitely the one situation that going into that fight was, and now there's rumors, and you take it with a grain of salt, but the fact that they said he was like in Paris and he was, kind of believing his own hype, and he was just kind of like, do I really need to train hard? And, he was just kind of rolling through people, and Dana's talking about, how he knocks everybody out, and I'm not sure about, but the punch that's like a Ford Focus or whatever the hell car it was. So like all of these things were kind of going on, maybe believe his hype, and the fact he was 20 pounds what he, over Stipe, and now has slimmed down. So I think a lot of that now, a little bit of the focus, I think, is going to be part of this. I think that's going to help him overall. And again, that's a grain of salt piece. Now the other part too is the cardio. Now this is another thing where is his cardio there? Can he last? If this fight goes deeper, can he last? And Stipe has shown, he's been through some wars and has been there through them. The thing about the first fight to me really is that yes, Stipe went out there, got the got the win, weathered the storm on the big barrage, but it wasn't that great of a showing for Stipe. And I know that sounds crazy, but to be honest, it really wasn't that great. You look at the fight, that first kind of flurry of big shots, and Ngannou just, went balls to the wall and looked for the knockout, looked for the big shot, and Stipe lasted it and then found the takedown, And then, even when he had an Ngannou who was just dead, Stipe didn't do that much. He didn't finish him. He kind of just, he worked him, he stayed, but it wasn't this, you would think in most situations you got a guy like him who is going to be on top of you. You got, Ngannou who is kind of has nothing in the tank to put the stamp on it, to get the finish. So to me, it wasn't as sexy of a win as I think a lot of people say, oh, Ngannou, went out and just blew it and did nothing. And I think right now he is really hitting his stride at this point. And I think this is a great spot to take Ngannou here. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say the champ plus money, although it's, it's like plus money, but plus money. You also look at the situation of Stipe has beaten some great fighters, no doubt. But a lot of them, to me, aren't aging as well. Now, he beat Dos Santos not long ago, Verdum, Arlovsky, then he did beat DC 3 times, and that's a massive, massive thing, obviously, but you got a guy who's kind of tailing off at the end of his career. I gotta say that if you even look back at those three fights with Cormier versus Stipe, Cormier looks in fantastic shape in that first one, and he slowly gets fatter and more out of shape. And that's, you take, again, to me, is now you've got a guy in Stipe who's starting to tail towards the end of his career. Now, heavyweights, I know, last longer. You can be in there, in your 40s and all these things. But you've got a guy in Ngannou who I think is really hitting his stride. I think that defending takedowns, he showed he actually wasn't that bad at defending takedowns in that first round. Now, I know at the end he was gassed, all this stuff. The slimming down, I think his movement's a lot different. And I think he's gonna fight smarter, because a lot of times in that first fight, he just threw wild. And he still does have that wild, crazy strikes, but they're not as wild as everybody thinks they are. I think it's a lot more calculated. I think that they're not as at the point where he's just aimlessly throwing. He has that weird angle that he just fires from. And I think that's what makes him even more dangerous, because a lot of guys don't throw from those angles. You can't even probably find a sparring partner that throws an uppercut. It's almost like a hook uppercut. And that's the way he fires. And that's very difficult, I think, to defend. You're not used to defending those angles. That makes it hard. And I think in this spot here, I think he can come out there. I think he could, early, be smart early. But I think this is a spot where he's going to find the chin. He's going to be able to put a stamp on that. I really like Ngannou here. I think that the price is good. I know that, I actually think that the price could get a little bit better for him, I think, because I think there's Stipe money that's going to be coming in. And I can't blame anybody who goes out there and takes the defending champion at basically a pick 'em. I can't blame him on that. But I like Ngannou here. I think this is his time to take over the division, to be a champion, and then to go out there and to possibly be fighting John Jones in the next fight. So for me here, as one of my free plays, and as probably a client play, will be Francis Ngannou to defeat Stipe Miocic at -128. And then the other one I'm going to talk about real quickly and just kind of give it out again is a prop play that I do like here. It's between Thomas Almeida and Sean O'Malley. You got O'Malley who's around a -130. I'm sorry, -300. And this is a spot here where, O'Malley, he did lose that last fight. He lost against Vera. It was kind of an ugly fight. He's saying, people are kind of mocking him that he says he's still defeated. And let's keep that to the side. what we got to focus on here is his skill set and what he can do. And after he had that impressive knockout on Dana White's Contender Series, he did have back-to-back decision wins. Did get wins, but back-to-back decision wins. And since then, I think he has looked really good. The way that he's kind of building his frame a little bit. He's a skinny guy, but building his frame a little bit, looking a lot sharper, having back-to-back knockouts over Jose Quinones and Eddie Wineland. But I think this is a spot here where how this stylistically matches up. And you've got a guy, Almeida, who is completely willing to stand and trade. He's completely willing to look and get in the pocket, stand, strike, not looking to, back off. He wants to keep the pace. He's going to look to get a name off of knocking out or defeating O'Malley. He's not going to play it safe. I think these are two guys that are going to stand in the middle and trade. I don't really see it being a peppering from the outside. O'Malley's not really like that. Also, Almeida is definitely not like that. And I think that even Almeida, when he recently lost, I think it was against Martinez hasn't been the finisher kind of guy. I think this is a spot where the range he's striking and the combinations and the quick hand speed of O'Malley is really going to be a good spot here. I like the knockout for O'Malley at plus 140. I think you're getting off the big number. You're getting off the minus 300. You're getting a solid price here on a guy that I really believe stylistically it matches up well. I think it's very hard for these two guys in a small cage to go the distance. I think it's really hard for this to go the distance. So I do like, as a prop play that I will be sprinkling some money on, will be O'Malley to win via knockout plus 140. So there you have it. Those are my plays for UFC 260. Really excited about this main event. Want to see how this is going to pan out. And again, if you want to get involved, John Jones, signed glove. Check out my Twitter, link down in the description. If you want my package for Wagertalk, you can take a look at that as well. Again, I'm going to have about 4 or 5 plays up on the package. Take a look, and there you have it. We will see how we do this weekend. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.